Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for tuning in and joining us as we continue to live broadcast our tribute to Leon Fleisher. Today, for the fifth day in a row, we, together with his students, honor this legendary pianist, musician, teacher, mentor, friend. Leon Fleisher did and meant a world to a lot of people and to the music of our time. We will be on again on Wednesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. on Wednesday and at 11 a.m. on Thursday. Please mark the change of time for Thursday. And we will continue with this tribute, which was made possible by an extraordinary solidarity effort of Mr. Fleischer's students, who put their love and their work together during this difficult time in honor of their noble teacher. Leon Fleischer's students bring their musical offerings. They speak about their mentor. They help us all pay homage to this incredible man. And they help us all pledge our own dedication to carry on his legacy of the human and artistic values which he taught and upheld himself. We appreciate very much your patience if the artists may experience challenges with connection. We will do our best to bring the beauty of each presentation to you in its fullest. And now I would like to offer this virtual stage to Beatrice Long, who was a student of Leon Fleischer, like her 34 colleagues on this week-long presentation. Welcome. It's a great pleasure to have you.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you so much for doing this and bring everyone together.
That's what we wanted to do. We wanted to bring the whole world of followers, disciples, and admirers of Mr. Fleischer together. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining.
Yes, I would like to let everyone know that the reason I chose the Schubert to pay homage to Mr. Fleischer is because Schubert wrote the Impromptus the same year that he wrote the song cycle Winterreise, the journey of the winter. And I have been contemplating the word journey, especially the last week when I was listening to many wonderful playing and many great tribute to our dear teacher. And that made me reflect my own journey from Taiwan to Peabody Prep, where I studied with Enrique Graf, who introduced me to Mr. Fleischer. And then I went away to Curtis. Years later, I ended up in room 413 for another 4 years. So I would like to convey my memories of Mr. Fleischer through this theme and variations, and for Mr. Fleischer's inspiration.
Thank you, Beatrice, so much for sharing yourself. What a gift. This is such an honor to have you and to listen to your gorgeous playing and beautiful sound of the piano. This is incredible.
Thank
I
you, Anna.
Yeah, I caught on the word you said about journey, and
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's a very meaningful word when it comes to music, and especially to Mr. Fleischer and to my other teachers too. Can you maybe share some memories about why is that important to you too?
Oh, okay. So actually, I was very intimidated when I studied Schubert, especially with Mr. Fleischer. Uh, but once he said this music is better than it can be played, and somehow it just took some weight off the shoulders. It's about the music. It's not really about you. Um, but the journey, it's let me see, how should I put this? I think I had a fortune to study, somehow directly from Taiwan to Peabody Prep. I was a teenager, and I didn't speak much English. And my teacher then, Enrique Graf, who's playing tomorrow, he took me to play for Mr. Fleischer. And I remember Mr. Fleischer asked me what music means to me. And I was like, with my very limited English, I tried to convey that. And I just didn't think I was ready for him. And then when I came back, and then sure enough, he took the music to another height. And also the journey is that at Curtis, the last year I had tendonitis. So I was struggling with debilitating pain when I play. And then when I came to Mr. Fleischer, I think what he did the most for me is that made me realize the intensity doesn't come from tension. It comes from the rhythmic organization, which is really incredible. I don't think other teachers teach about this kind of rhythm. The discipline, the balance between discipline and passion is all in the playing.
That's an incredible comment. Yep. So it's going to be so helpful to all the younger musicians who tend to put passion into tension and
Yes.
misplace the what you're talking about, this rhythmical organization and drive,
Mm-hmm.
misplace it sometimes with just a force.
That's right. I think what's amazing is Mr. Fleischer always sounds so free, yet it's like a really disciplined playing. For example, he would play a note, and I would know how long he's going to play that note, which is very amazing to listen. I mean, I know when everybody talk about how his verbal abilities just beyond, but I get the most whenever he demonstrates everything with the left and right next to you, and then just everything becomes so much more sublime.
That's wonderful. Um, and a lot of people also mentioned how Mr. Fleischer's own life and own sense of humility and dedication also impacted people in how they approach life and how they approach students. Do you have any memories or anything you would like to add to that? I hear it from many students who come on stage to speak about Mr. Fleischer.
Um, yes, so I'm obviously 4 years with him. I had so much memory, but I think now that it's almost like this theme and variation also is about process of transformation, and I was transformed when I was studying with him, but then I also had a lot of hang-ups, and I think it sometimes took me years to process. Oh, that's what he meant. And it's so wonderful, Anna, that for putting this together, that I get to hear my colleagues, my studio mates, and before and after, how they share their own journeys. And I'm very grateful for this opportunity.
Thank you for your kind words. For me, this is an incredible journey to hear Mr. Fleischer's students go on stage and speak one after another and play one after another fabulous music. And interesting, you mentioned classmates. We had quite a few interesting encounters here. There were two musicians who met in the studio 27 years after after 27 years of not seeing each other. So, and we have in our studio Frank Levy, who I believe was your classmate. Now we're going to invite Frank to play first because that's going to help with producing the best sound we can get. And then please stand by because we're going to bring you back. And maybe you and Frank can share some more memories about the time when you were studying with Mr. Fleischer together.
Sure, with pleasure.
So please stand by. And now I would like to invite on our virtual stage Frank Levy. And it's a great pleasure to have you. Frank, thank you so much for beautiful playing and for sharing your art and love with us on the program. um, Something must have happened with the settings, but we're going to bring Beatrice back. I know Beatrice and Frank were together at the same time, right?
Yes.
Is it, can you share maybe some memories while Frank is getting reconnected? I think we lost a connection with him for a moment.
Okay,
At
so
least
I
we didn't
would.
lose the connection while he was playing, which I'm very grateful.
Yes, thank goodness. That was beautiful. Brahms Intermezzo. Yeah, I was going to ask Frank whether he remembered that time when one of the lessons with the Schubert Impromptu that Mr. Fleischer talked about yodeling. Ooh, and then since Frank is from Switzerland, I think Mr. Fleischer asked him to demonstrate yodeling.
Oh, wow. Did Frank do that?
I don't think Frank did it, but maybe he can do it today for us.
Let's hope we have him back.
Oh, yeah.
Beatrice, hope you stay with us. Please don't disconnect because we will move to Peter and Miyamoto. Oh, no, we have Frank back here. Frank, I hope you're ready to step on the stage again because we have you here and this is wonderful to have you back. You did not get disconnected while you played. So we heard everything, including the pregnant pause after the intermezzo. And this is such an incredible experience to see people connected on this program for the same cause, to honor Mr. Fleischer, people who went to school together. I'd like to just hear you talk with each other.
Yeah. Hi, Frank. That was beautiful.
We just saw each other in New York a few months ago.
Was it only a few months ago? It was before the. Okay. Well, I still remember your lesson of this piece with Mr. Fleischer. Didn't you play this?
Yes, the whole opus.
Yes. Yes, I did too. And
Yeah.
I feel like you sound freer now.
Good.
I think we were all very intimidated, right? But do you remember, Frank? I wanted to ask you that. Remember during one of my lessons for the Schubert, Mr. Fleischer talked about this is not German, it's Austrian, and then let's do some yodeling. There's some yodeling involved, and then let's ask the expert from Switzerland, Frank Levy. I don't know. Did you do the yodeling? I don't remember. You actually can yodel.
No, I did not. As you know, I was born in Northern Africa, and yodeling is not exactly part of our tradition.
All right, yodeling is not in your blood.
Yes, but he always talked about the divine yodeling in Schubert. And yeah, I remember when you did the first Impromptu, Opus 142, and he spoke a lot about those things.
Yes. Oh, wow. So you were there when I had the lesson on this piece, and I was there when you had the lesson on that piece.
Yes, and I remember asking you a lot of questions about pedaling, and I remember you saying you were coming out of 413 and said, "Listen how it sounds," and that was very helpful. Very helpful.
Oh, I
Not
said that.
how it's written, how it sounds.
Oh, okay. So I wasn't as cruel as I thought. All right. Frank, it's so good to hear you play.
Yes, and thank you. I feel the same here. And Anna, I feel, I was so distraught when I heard the news that I feel your voice is the calm that I feel like a balm, the way you speak and the way you listen to all of us and release all these memories and make this connection. I am immensely grateful. Your voice has been a calming balm to our soul.
Oh my goodness, Frank, thank you so much. This is very touching, and I'm forever grateful to Mr. Fleischer's students for how you all came together in this time. And I know I mentioned in one of the previous broadcasts, we have almost 100 people on the group chat on Messenger. And it's just an unbelievable journey for me to watch you guys exchanging memories and exchanging scores and Mr. Fleischer's markings. And I feel like this group um, is going through its own journey. At first, it was a lot of pain and a lot of tears I could feel through the words. And as we go through this week, I feel like there's a lot more looking forward.
I
And
I remember the comment of Laurie, I believe, that said, finally some levity, or was it Ina that said that? And it's true, when I saw Kevin and Daniel uh, speaking and laughing, it brought so many wonderful memory. I like also what you said, Beatrice, about the hang-ups. You know, one of the nickname, I'm not sure if it has been mentioned, maybe 300 times. We used to call him Obi-Wan Kenobi. So we were all some form of Luke, trying to feel our force, if not the force. And I think the places where we came from had a lot to do with it, because he was like I remember being frustrated at times, and um, once Kwangwu, he was the assistant for the first year of my 1985, and I felt I wanted to experience the real Leon Fleischer, and he gave me a wonderful advice. He said, "Bring him something he doesn't know." So I bought him Bunte Blatte by Schumann, the Opus 99, and he was visibly annoyed. What's that? He sat, and this was possibly one of my greatest lessons, and because I saw him look at the material, figure out the phrasing, 2 notes at the time, then extrapolating to 4 to maybe 16. I saw him at work. And so I felt like I put Leon Fleischer glasses and I saw how he did it. Because very often you work with great musicians and it's the end result of so many journeys of theirs, but they don't always share the parameters that made the journey possible, or what they, and so that was a very valuable advice. I remember very fondly because I came from Europe, so I was young, naive, and definitely on the shyer side, at least because I didn't speak a word of English. That didn't help. And so he spoke French. He lived 2 years, so he would say always "plus souple le poignet." So I was immensely grateful for his French, and so he was very helpful. And I remember when I saw Laurie exchange with him Monty Python routine about the coconut, and he was with tears laughing, and that was. Laurie had a way to bring Leon Fleischer to, your young brother that just giggles. Not, sorry, someone at the door. I'm telling my wife. So that was a new vision for me, to see that he was that kind of man. I remember going through one of the heartaches of life when you are separating from someone. And he told me something so kind and so human. He told me, I've been through pain myself. He went through divorce. And he said to me, don't forget that when you are in pain, you want to close because you're hurting and you don't want to hurt anymore. But that's the one place where you can feel again. So don't close it. I thought that was, I don't know, it was so, I felt that, I don't know if it was a mistake, but when I was a younger man, you sometimes need validation, some kind of acceptation. And you had none of that with Leon, as I believe Kevin said it so beautifully the other day. It was more becoming responsible. What do you think? And so this was a great illuminating process where it wasn't so, teacher, what should I do? Less loud here and quicker here. It was being able to come to a process where you had an idea and it was in your terms. And so he was not there to acknowledge in any way or validate your process. You were enough. And for some of us, it took more years than others. But I think that's the greatest value I have in my life is when we teach, I believe that he gave us this gift. We help people to find their voice, and in a way it's irrelevant what we think. We might disagree. I always point out the fact that I do not particularly like the sound of Ivo Pogorelic, but I have every record of his. I do not always understand Mr. Glenn Gould, but I do know he's a genius. So in a way, Fleischer forced us to go deep in, find the plan, execute the plan, and accept the plan. And I feel this is the gift of Leon to all of us.
Thank you. Thank you very much for sharing this. Beatrice, to you, you have some comments, maybe contradictions?
Yeah, so no, I was just thinking like how we felt very sad with Mr. Fleischer's passing, and then one advice I remember, actually it was Schnabels, that he asked us to play from above the eyebrow. So if I feel very sad when I'm playing something that remembers him, I've tried to play above the eyebrow.
Yeah, that's so true. Some accent, he said, just with the eyebrow it's enough, you know. But it's interesting to me, many things what you were saying that became more real as the years go by. I feel they're like little time bombs. You receive them, but I remember being in Barnes and Noble, and one of those books, Great Piano Teachers of the 20th century, or something like that. And I saw Fleischer. I was so happy, and Schnabel, and you know, they're all the usual suspects, but with at least 40 pages. And I'm at Barnes and Noble. I don't have that much time. So I was looking, and I see Horowitz, 1 page. I thought, I'm going to read that one. So there were 3 words: exaggerate, exaggerate, exaggerate. And I do remember Leon telling me to do more. He had one, I think like so many people, I did study Schubert B-flat Sonata. That was my second recording. And he told me, you know, the favorite thing of Americans is to homogenize is milk. So the milk and the cream, it all get mixed. And he had that wonderful image when he sang, and then he got this kind of energetic, the whole, you felt those forces almost in your body. That was new. And I remember when he told me to exaggerate it at the time, I felt that it was too much. I was more like Lipati. That was right. No, not this much. But then I got into cooking. And one thing you learn from cooking, you buy this many do miao, wonderful pea shoot, or this many mushrooms, and you're very excited. But by the time you're finished cooking, you only have this many mushrooms. And I think the dimension that takes place is tempo, reduced dynamics, and nerves. We get sometimes a little bit under. And so I think he was helping us to exaggerate, so there was something left. So many things he gave us at the time. Yes, Beatrice?
Yeah, also the conviction. Just now when you said, you just turned away Mr. Fleischer asked all of us. He will ask, is this a ta or a la or a da?
Yes, wa.
Because it's articulation, right? I mean, it's just such a great advice. Because piano can sound homogeneous and very monotonous, right? With that kind of...
Yes, one of the greatest advice I remember him giving me, he said, match your mouth.
Yeah.
So that the timing of your key. And I think that's, to me, the key of his teaching, and that's why we are all so different and happy as who we are, and not as a comparative, kind of competition circuit mentality, but just different, is that we hear things differently. And in his images, the painters, it's the same reality. I'm a little embarrassed to say, but when I was 14, I went to Paris to l'Orangerie. That's where they used to have all the impressionists, and I was very unimpressed. I saw it looked very fuzzy to me. That's all I thought. I was only 14. But then I took the trip to Giverny, like most tourists, and I was dumbfounded that they had photographic eyes. The lake is not blue. It's green and blue and black and has lily pads and reflections. And so, in a way, he taught us to accept how we saw the world and how we sang in order to build a technique that matched our imagination and not his playing. And I think most of the teachers I've met in my life, they said, why don't you do this? I don't know why, but try this. And it was more seeing and doing what they did. And Fleischer was so different from, I would say he seemed almost uninterested in. That's, I believe, why he gave only one lesson. It was a tough schedule. Do you remember that? I bought him once the Schumann Fantasy twice. He almost yelled at me. How dare! He said, I've seen that. So he gave you everything he knew. Now it was your journey. So it made for us having a pretty large repertoire, but it was tough because sometimes I wanted to know if I got it right. But the right was not to be determined by him, and that I feel is an amazing gift that keeps giving over the years. Because when you're young or maybe influenced, you want to be right. You want. So how is it that he never spoke about style? Did he speak to you about style? I never heard him say, in the Baroque era, music was music.
This is beautiful. This is really incredible to teach people how to discover themselves, how to discover their own vision, their own understanding of music, and unrestricted, but just guided by great experience and knowledge and understanding he had. So he was teaching people how to define their own journey.
And
That's what
his
I'm
joy.
hearing from
I,
many students and their own joy. That's right.
the joy, I have to tell you, when I met Leon Fleischer, I was a student of Louis Hilbrand, and some of his students, the assistant of Dino Lipati, he knew about him because some of them came to study with him in Baltimore. So I'm told by Joseph Conta that there's this wonderful teacher in Salzburg. So I just leave my home with enough money for 2 days, and I hide in the Mozarteum because I was not a guest in the back until the class starts, until 9 o'clock, which I had no ticket to, of course. I sit there, and I still remember when he did the Schumann, that wonderful phrase, and he said, Sol mi re, and then you do the opposite.
Frank, unfortunately, at this setting,
Oh,
we can't hear you. Yeah,
but
we
he
can't
did
hear you playing
uh,
very well.
the
Yeah.
G, E, D, and then he kind of, with that smile, said, let's go in reverse, D, G. The smile that came to that moment, it was so touching. I felt this genuine joy of feeling. I read the same comment about Schnabel, that on the last concert of his life, he said, I never noticed that in Pathétique it goes, da F F F F B, da da da, go back to B flat. That kind of things that mean everything to you or nothing. But I, I felt something so genuine about the joy he showed the world, and I knew that was my teacher.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing those great memories. And I love how much joy Leon Fleischer students bring, and how much you all speak about the joy, the discovery, and the movement forward, and the personal challenges and difficulties which Mr. Fleischer experienced himself with the hand and everything. He, he really did what he spoke about, how to be in touch, in connection with with yourself, how to be connected with the music, how to keep going, and be dedicated to within. This is really remarkable, and of course everybody mentions humility and dedication to the music itself. It was a remarkable conversation. Thank you, Beatrice and Frank, for
Thank you,
in,
Anna.
Thank you. Thank
talk.
you.
Thank you for talking with us, and we will be moving on to our last presenter of today. And please allow me to welcome on our stage Peter Miyamoto, who teaches at the University of Missouri. Welcome, Peter. It's an honor to have you. And I know we have the settings set up for you to play first, so I'm going to leave the stage to you.
Thank you very much.
Peter, thank you. I want to thank you from the deepest. This was beautiful. Thank you for offering your musical gift to this tribute. And
Thank you
thank you
very
for
much,
being.
and thank you for having me, and thank you for putting this together, because it's really been a fantastic event of remembering a great man. So thank you so much, Anna.
And I understand that you had somewhat a unique experience in your in your study years.
Well,
Would you share some with us, please?
sure. I was honored to have studied not with just Mr. Fleischer, but with a total of 4 students of Schnabel. And I think a lot about that, the commonalities of Schnabel's message that came through each of their teaching, their beings really, and their differences, but the commonalities of language. My goodness, talking about support the composer, which I loved Fleischer would say all the time. Looking at the score first, harmony, melody, and rhythm, that sense of rhythm, all those things. Those were common. It was interesting to see their different personalities come through, their different teaching styles. But one thing that I thought was consistent as well was that each and every one of them really became a teacher because of the strong sense that they got from Schnabel himself, that the music, the quality of the message was so important that it was necessary to pass it on to the next generation. And one of the things I think a lot about this past week is how Mr. Fleischer so embodies that same tradition, and how thankful I am that he touched so many people, that we can have this Facebook group with hundreds of people, and knowing that there are colleagues throughout the world who are also putting forth this message and remembering Fleischer and his message. I also was a little bit different from many of the other people in the group or in these performances this week, in that I studied with Mr. Fleischer at the Curtis Institute of Music. So I'm rather jealous of the camaraderie and the connections that I see throughout this broadcast amongst the different participants. I mean, Frank and Beatrice knowing each other so well. We had a very small group. My group was only 3. We would travel every week to Peabody to have our lesson. And I guess if I had one memory that it's not really a memory of what he said or any particular piece, but it is that I know that we all experienced that fantastic euphoria that we felt when he came up in his chair next to us and played along with us, and with that inexorable feeling of rhythm, and for me also that fantastic tone. I mean, that tone that he got from one hand, but that euphoria of being carried along. And I remember week after week, each lesson feeling like, I've got it. I mean, look, I'm doing it. That was when he was sitting right next to me. And then that long journey back to Philadelphia, and going to your own practice room, and when you're by yourself, it kind of disappears. And just trying to remember, just trying to get that feeling back. And in a way, that's a microcosm of what we're all doing now. I think I'm so saddened by his passing, but in a way, this is this sense of memory and trying to remember the things that he gave us is so important, and I think it will continue for each one of us, just because he was such an important influence on all of us, such an incredible personality who could carry us along these journeys into great music. And those are my thoughts for the moment.
This is really becoming a theme, one of the themes of all the offerings from Leon Fleischer's students, that his teaching grows as we grow ourselves.
Yes. And
And
I love that it's part of a line too, because I saw that so much that Schnabel did. There were inflections of what his students remembered of their lessons, but the core was there. And what an amazing core it must have been to get that directly, because it transferred through a whole generation of student after student after student. And I see the same thing happening with Fleischer, the great musician and teacher and performer that he was, and human being, really sets an example for all of us that we're almost compelled to try to reach the best quality that we can. And isn't that incredible in this day and age?
oh, this is incredible. It's a great support Mr. Fleischer had given to his students, and will continue to support everyone who steps on that journey, the journey he himself completed, but we are still carrying forward. This is wonderful, wonderful words and wonderful playing. Thank you, Peter, so much for sharing this wisdom and this sense of stability, sense of core and direction. This is very important as we're moving forward without Mr. Fleischer among us, but with his teaching in every one of people who ever met him, or maybe didn't even meet but know about him, and able to connect with his playing, with his teaching through his living students.
Yes. And thank you for arranging this and letting us share it with the world. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. And with this, we will conclude the program for today. And we will be back again tomorrow on Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, New York time. And then on Thursday, we will come online earlier at 11 a.m. Hope to see you all again for 2 more tributes to Leon Fleischer. Goodbye.